Now, after weeks of evacuations, thousands of Afghan refugees are now adjusting to their new lives here in the UK. But the question still remains of what's going to happen to those who were left behind.
Well, Joya, whose name we have changed, was an Afghan Special Forces commander who worked alongside British forces and managed to get out of Kabul a few weeks ago. Jonathan Beale has been to meet him.
Afghan Special Forces have been fighting the Taliban for years and taking heavy casualties. Joya was one of their commanders, hand-picked and trained by elite troops from the Parachute Regiment. He was still fighting long after the British left Helmand. This is Joya firing on Taliban positions just 1 month ago. He said they were still fighting until they ran out of ammunition.
Until end we are fight, till we can we fight. And without of any air support, without of ammunition, without of any resupply, how they can fight? With empty hand, you can fight.
By then, the Taliban had taken control of Kabul and crowds had gathered outside the airport. The Taliban were already tracking Joya down, but so too were his old friends from the Parachute Regiment in a race against time.
They found my phone number and called me and says, "Where are you?" I'm says, "I'm in Kabul." And they says, "You're safe?" Or I says, "No, I change my location every night."
2 weeks ago, Joya was living in fear for his life. But today he's tasting freedom, now safe in London with his wife and 2 young children. Rescued at the dead of night by British soldiers who never forgot.
And they says, "Tomorrow night you come in at midnight at 1 o'clock at the Baran Hotel. We come in and pick up you." And at the midnight, 1 o'clock, I arrive at the Baran gate. They come out and call my name. Come to the airport and put us on the plane, and we come to Dubai. From Dubai, come to here.
Dan Jarvis.
Later today, I'll be reunited with an Afghan Special Forces commander that I had the privilege of serving alongside. He's deeply concerned about the hundreds of his men who were left behind.
It's an incredibly moving moment for me. I didn't know whether he would make it out of Afghanistan alive or not. It's so good to see you.
14 years after they first met in Helmand, there is genuine relief at being reunited, but also real worries about what will happen to those left behind.
These are people who are uniquely at risk because of the nature of the service that they provided. They are top of the Taliban list for being executed, is the reality of it. So I'm deeply fearful for their future. There is a real urgency, and the British government need to move at pace to do everything that they possibly can to get those people out.
The band of brothers from the Parachute Regiment are now raising funds to help those like Joya who managed to get out. He's now making plans for his family's new life in Britain. He still hopes more of his men will follow. But the question is how. Jonathan Beale, BBC News.
How indeed. Oh, well, someone who knows Joya well is Martin Hewitt, a retired officer with the Parachute Regiment who did 2 tours of Afghanistan in 2006 and 2007. Morning. Thank you very much for joining us. And you know Joya, don't you, yourself? I mean, for you, what's it like seeing that he is safe, he's in the UK?
A huge relief, yeah. We spent time with Joya and with the entire Special Forces unit. Our role was to train and mentor them and work alongside them for our tours out there.
And the sense you get from watching that is, he's one of the ones who's managed to get out. What about for life out there for people who are still left behind?
Well, they're in great risk is the reality of it. And to our knowledge, there's around 600 members of the Special Forces unit still in country holding up, and their immediate families that we're trying to facilitate the extraction of, who are, the vast majority of whom are Arab qualified. What we need is an assurance from the government with third nations that they are going to be processed if they get to those nations, which will give them the confidence to move. Otherwise, they'll probably stay in situ and face whatever comes their way.
You say to the best of your knowledge, what kind of contact are you able to have with those guys at the moment to work out where they are, how they are?
Well, it's changing. We've got some guys who are involved in private security out there. We've got guys who've got direct communications with some of the soldiers themselves, and obviously through the government and through the MOD. So we've got a variety of different sources giving us information, and the purpose of the crowdfunder, which is called Support Our Afghans, that we've established, is to try and help finance getting those people out of the country and then to provide support for them when they get here.
It's not just them, it's their families as well, presumably, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, their immediate family.
And if you count the immediate family, do you know how many people you're trying to deal with?
Well, we think it's around 600 in total that are left behind at the minute,
Right.
up to 600 maximum.
And what sort of stories are you hearing from them, from their associates, about what their life is like? Because I guess they're in limbo, aren't they? They're hoping to get out, but there's no certainties.
Yeah, so there's a lot of people that are moving place to place to try and prevent being captured. We've heard some reports of some people being killed already in fighting. There was still a resistance movement trying to continue the fight, and so they're in great danger.
And this is really personal for you, isn't it? You've been there, you were injured there as well. Just tell us a little bit about you and what happened to you.
Yeah, well, I was injured with the team during a strike operation that we were facilitating to try and, in essence, take over an area that the Field Army could then establish a forward operating base in. And both my soldiers and the Afghan Special Forces soldiers that we were working with facilitated my extraction, and then a whole plethora of people and organisations got involved with saving my life and then providing me with an opportunity to get a job again, regain a sense of purpose, get transition out of the military, and carry on with my life.
So effectively they were part of saving your life then?
Oh, 100%, yes, certainly. And we're hoping now to do our bit as a collective of former members of the Parachute Regiment through Support Our Afghans crowdfunder to try and provide support for them.
One thing that's really struck me over the last few weeks, as a non-military person, is that bond that we all know that the bond exists within the services, within you as a community, but the links between that community and the Afghan community that you're working alongside seems almost to be equally strong.
Yes, certainly. Well, I think one of the many benefits of soldiering as a career, we're a professional army, and with that you establish an esprit de corps, and you go through a fairly challenging selection process and training process in order to serve in a professional army, and that creates a strong bond. Anybody that goes through a shared experience of hardship and challenge together develops deep relationships, and that was no different with the selection process that we put Special Forces soldiers through, who then went on to serve alongside us. So you do develop a deep bond, and of course you're both trying to work towards a common goal. And so you're aligned in what you're trying to achieve, and that further enhances a depth of relationship with people.
So depth of relationship and real deep friendships, presumably, as well?
Certainly. Well, as you saw with Dan Jarvis, who was actually one of my bosses out there,
Yeah.
who's now a member of Parliament, it's emotional for people to see people that they haven't seen for years and be reconnected with them. So I think we have a moral duty to provide as much support as we can for everybody that committed to the British effort out there.
For those who do get out and do get here, what would you like to see in terms of the way that they work with the British military in the future? I mean, is there a way of amalgamating their expertise, their experience within the army here now? Well,
I've heard some rumours of that and some suggestions of that. Amalgamation is the key word there. I mean, I've heard some people talking about establishing something similar to the Gurkhas, but to facilitate that, you'd need in-country support, and you would need to be able to provide a throughput of personnel to replace the units as people retire and move on from the role. Obviously, we're out of Afghanistan. I can't see logistically and tangibly that being achieved. But augmentation is a possibility potentially. But the key
augmentation, how do you mean? That would be...
So to facilitate them in an existing unit within the military and provide a pathway for them to join the British Army. Some interpreters that we were working with in Afghanistan in the early tours in 2006 and 2007 came to the UK and joined the British Army. So there may be an opportunity there. But the primary focus at the minute is to get those out that we need to get out, and then provide an opportunity for people to settle in this country and get the support they need to do that.
And as it stands today, are there routes out?
Yes, there are routes out, but the biggest block at the minute is this agreement that we need from the government with third nations to provide opportunities for people who are out of qualified specifically to get into that country and
then get to the first country and then move from there.
Of course, and without that confidence, they're less likely to move from their hideouts.
Yeah, well, I can really hear it's a very difficult situation. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, talking to us all about it, Martin Hewitt.